with the growing Republican fears that Donald Trump's fixation on settling personal scores, plus self-enrichment and alleged corruption, is actually dragging down the whole party. Top Republicans, including in elected positions and other important positions, are expressing their concern with how the way Donald Trump is will hurt them in the midterms and beyond. He's called rising prices peanuts. He has outlined plans for money for criminals, the soft on crime, anti-police, pro-insurrection fund that may not get off the ground because there's already been so much pushback. Today, the Times reports on what it calls Trump's self-indulgence, deepening Republican fears for the midterms. And this is, of course, the official start of summer this holiday weekend. And the summer is a time where people tend to tune out of politics a little bit and then come back for the home stretch of the midterms. So if this is the baked-in headlines and views of the summer, that's bad for Trump and the Republicans. The Thug Fund is a jaw-dropper that's incensed Republicans in the Senate over the holiday weekend. Reports they are vexed. One senator in the party says the stupid stuff is killing their chances. Another Republican pollster notes that if Trump's highest goal were to maintain control of Congress, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. That's also against the backdrop of the economic problems, the gas prices, and an open-ended situation in Iran. They are trying to reopen the strait. That may involve concessions, which are different from how Trump previewed a victorious short war before it really got off the ground. Now we've seen how long it's taking. The Wall Street Journal, a sister outlet in Rupert Murdoch's empire to Fox News, says that if he gives up too much, saving the regime now with a bailout would be a real betrayal of the U.S. interest, even more than the Iranian people. The diplomat who served Trump in the first term says the deal would allow Iran, this is what could happen, to terrorize the world. Ted Cruz is concerned. Senator Graham, who's very politically loyal to Trump, is worrying that the type of deal they're talking about, which of course Trump needs with his back against the wall in the midterms, would actually allow the Iranian regime that the U.S. is supposed to be fighting to become more powerful. That is the background for longtime conservative voices like Megyn Kelly to discuss the decline of MAGA.
MAGA is not what it was. MAGA is now this very, very small group of Trump diehard loyalists who have to love Mark Levin. And so that's, by definition, an increasingly tiny group.
MAGA is tiny. MAGA is dying, to laughter of the on-air and off-camera guests that Kelly was speaking with. That's the state of the right. We've heard the Republican criticism in Congress against Trump getting even louder going into the start of this summer, and you can only imagine what they say when the cameras aren't on. With that in mind, I want to bring in our guests for a special discussion here on this holiday. Jay Komanduri, politically has worked for 3 different presidential campaigns, including Obama, and political science professor Christina Greer. Welcome to both of you. Christina, that's a brief summary of the problems this summer. If you wanted a full list, it would take longer, but we're all familiar. And so I mentioned that summer is a time where some people pull away from politics and the news. That's bad for them if it levels kind of the score, the attention at a point where Republicans are clearly behind, and they say so themselves.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Democrats will be able to capitalize on this moment and articulate to voters not just their own, but the growing number of independents who are increasingly displeased with this administration. I mean, summer is also the time, Ari, where people like to be outside and they like to drive different places and go see national parks, the ones that are still open. We've got gas that's almost $1.50 more than it was last summer. There are just economic strains that almost all Americans are feeling, quite honestly. And Republicans are trying to backpedal, but they've created a dragon that they've fed consistently for close to a decade. And now so many of them are hand-wringing, saying, like, why is he biting us? And it's very clear Donald Trump has his own agenda, and he's not really thinking about his party. And so Republicans in Congress have abdicated to the president consistently, and now they've sort of painted themselves into a corner where economically they're trying to justify some of the president's whims. And we've seen some Republicans when they're leaving office saying, you know, a new profile in courage, saying, like, this is actually not great for us, the party, the country. But where were they for so many years when the president has just been unleashed and is increasingly getting more and more draconian and vindictive, not just to Democrats, but to members of his own party?
Yeah. Jay, for viewers who might tune in during today's holiday, we're live right now. Happy Memorial Day. And don't know what a movie buff you are. Your movie knowledge rivals your political knowledge. Is that fair to say?
I think so, yes. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, you know a lot about movies. And I'm looking at this saying, you know, you got Ted Cruz and others, you know, upset with Donald Trump about his actions, about the self-dealing, about the alleged corruption, about an open-ended war that he promised would be short and it's not. And to do a flip of a movie that you might remember, it's kind of like Republicans saying, I know what you did this summer. I'm mad about what you're doing right now, Jay. Your thoughts?
Well, I wish you had referenced the better movie than I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'll just leave it at that. My opinions on that film. It was just a really bad Scream knockoff in an era of Scream knockoffs. But, I think your point is salient. They're just figuring this out now. Donald Trump is impulsive. He has terrible instincts that he always follows, that he can't be reined in by experts. I mean, where have they been? I mean, we saw all of these things in display in the first term, particularly in the pandemic year of 2020, where he didn't listen to anybody, where he followed his own instincts, where he literally told Americans to drink bleach. He did all of those things. He lost the election. He claimed he won the election. He led a mob on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. And so why is anyone surprised at how the last 18 months since Donald Trump has been inaugurated have turned out? He has behaved exactly as he did that last year when he fired all the experts. No longer were people like Jim Mathis and John Kelly around him. It was just him and his instincts. And that's what you're seeing now. It's leading to disastrous results.
Mm-hmm. And Professor, I'm going to show you something we put together here that is the building. We got to this point. If you followed politics over the last several years, you would rarely see Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan criticizing Donald Trump with any strength. Over the last couple of weeks, especially from the Epstein to the war, there's been a shift, and it's been on multiple issues. Now we get a Megyn Kelly criticism once a week, and maybe that's because they see exactly where everything's going, and they want to get with the next hot thing, which is not, according to her, MAGA. So we put this together. It's over a minute. It's a good watch, we think. It also saves you if you don't want to watch all these podcasts yourself. This is your shortcut, and we'll get your views, Professor, on the other side.
I'm scared of this tariff stuff.
Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand him. I don't.
His giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally.
What the is going on with our country? Guys, why am I poor?
It seems like you think your base is stupid. That's how I feel. I feel like Trump thinks his base is stupid.
Deporting people because you don't like who they're criticizing? Like, that gets kind of shifty.
3 times I voted for this man. This is by far the biggest fumble of the administration they've had thus far.
It's indefensible that the answers aren't there when so much was promised.
It looks terrible. It looks terrible for Trump when he was saying that none of this was real. This is all a hoax. This is not a hoax.
There is something there, and it's being covered up, and the president blessed it. He can't be a dignified, strong leader without threatening a bunch of war crimes.
So what do you think of what's going on in Iran?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
All of it's terrifying.
I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human?
It's 86-47 is get rid of 47.
Right.
Free speech. But it's just like arresting a guy for that is nuts.
Professor?
Well, I appreciate you putting together that compilation so I don't have to sit through all of those podcasts. But I will say, the president promised his base, economic security and abundance. And ever since he's, gotten reelected, we started with the tariff policy, which has only hit, American pockets and made groceries and everything else go up. But the refusal to justify the attack on Iran has really, I think, shaken up some of the Republicans, maybe not necessarily the MAGA base just in full swath, but a lot of Republicans are still waiting for a justification because it's not just the moral quandary that we found ourselves in and the international isolation, but the economic drain and hole that he's put the country in that will be around for well over a decade plus. I mean, we know how much it costs to enter and exit these wars. And so the refusal to have any sort of justification, the consistent doubling down saying, you're fine, economics are fine, the country is prospering, when his own base is telling him that is not the case. They don't feel any sort of economic prosperity that was promised. That's why they voted for him 3 times, many of them. So this, we're seeing an increasingly unhinged president. As Che said, though, we saw this in the first term. Obviously, many people refuse to acknowledge it. But there are, we've entered a different Rubicon with this second term of Donald Trump, especially with him going after innocent Americans, him essentially ruling by miscellaneous edict. I mean, every day there's something new. And I think for a lot of Republicans, seeing him literally rip up Washington, D.C. with no justification or economic plan is quite worrisome. And so the only way they see a path to victory is obviously gerrymandering, which we're seeing across the South. And obviously it'll come to other states up north sooner rather than later. But that is the only political path for many Republicans because the policies just aren't there. And we can see in the poll numbers, not just from obviously Democrats aren't happy, but the growing number of independents and Republicans increasingly so, to say nothing of young people who were just completely disillusioned by not just the president, but his entire feckless administration.